Golly, we love chatting about Packers, everybody, on this podcast with the star of the show, Packers historian John Dodds. I'm Tom Pipins. You catch us at the Tom Pipins Show with John Dodds. Google the Tom Pipins Show, whatever you'd like to do. And certainly right here with our friends and comrades at WisconsinSportsStream.com, WSS Sports. I love showing those cards. They're so fancy. Man alive, Jason, Ruck, and Derek, and TK. It's one of the best teams ever. And we appreciate your company. So the Packers, somehow, some way, they get by Detroit without Davante Adams. Probably won't have him for a while based on what we're hearing and reading on this turf toe. I mean, you'd like to think maybe he would show up against the Raiders Sunday at noon in Titletown, but I doubt it. Still, 5-1, Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers and company getting the job done. And they face an Oakland Raiders team coming in off a Week 6 bye. They stun the Bears in London. They have a record for John Gruden at 3 up, 2 down. So we'll talk about them. But, John, you want to talk about deja vu all over again. Thank you very much.
That's right. Last week I mentioned that this season was starting to remind me of the 2017 season where the Packers started off 4-1, had a big win in their 5th game at Dallas, and then went up and they're getting their offensive tackles back. Everything looked pretty good, and then Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone. This year, 4-1, big win in Dallas, went up against Detroit, huge win against Detroit, 1-point win. Any win is a good win. But as I started thinking during the game, when we're looking at deja vu, it may not be the 2017 season, it may be the 2015 season, and I hope that's not the case. The 2015 season, the Packers were devastated with an injury to Jordy Nelson in the preseason at Pittsburgh, and then they started off adding James Jones from the street. They just picked him up. He had 6 touchdown receptions the first 5 or 6 weeks, and they had Cobb, they had Abderus, they had Janis. That was Jeff Janis. Well, anyway, they started off 6-0, and they played San Diego, and James Jones got hurt, Davante Adams had a bad ankle, Cobb got nicked up. Pretty soon, Abderus was your number 1 wide receiver. That's what this season is starting to remind me of. Back in 2015, Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback in the NFL, but he was shooting blanks because there were no wide receiver options. That's what it looked like for a while, lots of drops. And now it looks like with Davante Adams out for a while, Geronimo Allison is in concussion protocol. MVS looked like he got nicked up during the game. But then out of nowhere comes Alan Lazard. It's amazing.
Catch in the NFL is a key touchdown, and what a brilliant catch it was, and throw from 12.
And if anybody can make something out of nothing, Brett Favre used to do that with some of the guys they had. Aaron Rodgers can do it. Can they do it? And heck, they're
and now they won't. They probably won't have Geronimo Allison for a while. That was a scary hit again against the Lions, and so going forward, starting with Oakland, you have to be concerned. But they are finding a way, aren't they?
Well, Mercedes Lewis, he hit him for 2 25-yard catches. I thought the
guy was just a blocker.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Key catches, too, on Monday night.
But even Tomlin is out.
Yeah,
so
that hurts.
Jimmy Graham, it looks like just breaking down toward the end of his career, can still do it, but in small doses, in small areas.
And when he catches it, he goes right down. There's just nothing in yak, the old yards after catch. Right?
Yeah. Right. Well, it would have been better if the Packers played the Raiders 4 or 5 weeks ago.
You've said it. It's when you catch them, right?
Yeah. It's Bud Grant is now 97 years old. He's living up in Minnesota. It's not who you play; it's when you play them. So they looked really good against the Bears in London, but that could have been also a fluke. Who knows after the plane ride to London if the Bears were ready to go, and plus the Bears didn't have Trubisky, so they weren't.
Exactly.
So you don't know, but the running back, Josh Jacobs from Alabama, looked really good, and there was some thought that the Packers, with that Darnell Savage pick, was going to take Josh Jacobs because he didn't have a lot of tread wear at Alabama because they have so many good running backs. But boy, he's really good in short space. And had over 100 yards against the Bears, which is something to be said.
He's got 430 yards and 4 TDs, 88 carries. Not bad. Obviously, he's going to be solid, you would think,
right,
if he's blessed with health. A good pick.
The offensive line for the Raiders has improved, but pass blocking isn't their forte. Run blocking is. So again, if Rodgers can get up, but again, can you get up not being as efficient without your weapons like Devontae Adams and Allison? If you can get up early, you can shut that running game down and force Derek Carr to beat you. I think the Smith brothers on defense could really rush Derek Carr, their quarterback, who's not that mobile. So I think they could put pressure on him, and I think there were no turnovers generated by the Packer defense against Detroit. And the Packer offense had 3 turnovers. Overcoming
Still
that,
won the game.
Overcoming that, the stat after the game was they hadn't done that since 2001 against Tampa Bay.
No wonder LaFleur's like,
-3.
that was an unusual win we just had.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. The tight end is pretty good as well. Derek Carr is completing over 73% of his passes. The kid Walker, I guess, 359 receiving yards. John, significantly, points allowed per game, to your point about defense, 19.2. I'm talking about the Packers, whereas I believe the Raiders are 24-6. So the numbers seem to bode in favor of the team that'll host the game on Sunday at noon.
The Raiders had a couple of blowout games early where they didn't play well. And there's some games, I think Minnesota beat them something like 34-10, 34-13, and the game wasn't even as close as the score indicated. I mean, they could have really put a hurting on them, but they didn't. So the defense is playing a little bit better, but I think Rodgers, the offensive line of the Packers is playing so well now, I think they can neutralize the pass rush. And the Packers are running enough where if there's a play action fake, you have to honor it. And that's what Rodgers said in the post-game comments, that he's really buying into the system. He's seeing how it's working with fake jet sweeps and handoff fakes, play action fakes. It's really freezing the linebackers, allowing them to have bigger windows. So we'll see. There's a couple times I know Rodgers would sit back, and the offensive line was great against Detroit. Detroit had to blitz, and Patricia does not like to blitz. But they had to, because he was back there like the Statue of Liberty, just kind of waiting. And if you wait 5-6 seconds, any wide receiver can get open against even an all-pro corner.
Aaron Rodgers has said there seems to be something, I'm paraphrasing, so it's not the word he used, but something special about this team. There's a camaraderie. Obviously, winning, as you point out, is a great ingredient. But he seems really happy about this group. Is there something you sense about them, aside from, hey, you got to do it on the field? Chemistry-wise, is this just a group maybe that will benefit from being tight, believing in one another, saying, hey, we've been there and done that, so even if we get down, we don't have to give up. We've seen them come back, and certainly Detroit was a classic example of that Monday evening.
No, I think it's not a special team or anything. I think it's just a team with more talent. And it's not all on Aaron Rodgers. There's actually pass rush. Mm-hmm. There's actually defensive backs who can cover and make plays. Hopefully they get Savage back. That's a big loss.
Yeah.
But
and
don't mess with
Tonyan too, right? The tight end.
Don't mess with Savage though. It's that I was thinking he blew a knee. Mm-hmm. Luckily he only hurt his ankle in the turf. So he's extremely flexible, but they need his coverage ability already. And Amos was a great acquisition. Yeah. He's a Simon Sure. Unlike HaHa, where you never quite knew what he was going to, HaHa Clinton Dix, you never knew quite where he was going to be or how he was going to play. Amos has been very good, and it's amazing that Gutekunst added 2 pass rushers in the Smiths and Amos, all solid players. And Turner, the guard on offense, is starting to play much, much better, and the run blocking is better. The offensive line has only given up 6 sacks in the last 5 games.
Yeah, they've kept him pretty clean, haven't they, Aaron Rodgers?
These are premier teams, except for Detroit. Detroit probably less, but Philadelphia, Denver,
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Those are premier
Chicago,
teams.
right,
Chicago.
right.
Brian Balaga performing the best.
Is Bakhtiari playing a little bit below his standard? I wonder if the back is a little bit of an issue. At times he gets moved around in there, and that's unusual.
I think
Bull rush.
I think he's playing hurt.
Yeah, I do too. That's my sense.
Yeah, I think he's playing hurt, but he's still.
You want him there at left
I want him
tackle,
there.
right? Yeah.
In the off season, I was watching the NFL Network, and they were having a draft by position. They had a draft where you draft quarterback, you draft the best at the position. 3 teams all drafted Bakhtiari #1 for left tackle, all within the top 6 picks. So he is very highly thought of. So I think next year you definitely need to draft an offensive tackle. If they could draft an offensive tackle that plays like Jenkins has played at guard, and you never know, Jenkins possibly could become a guard. He's that athletic, and he can get out.
Could become a tackle?
Space. I'm sorry, could become move from guard to tackle things. Yeah.
Give me a prediction on this game, and why.
Okay.
Why will the Packers win? You've been right all along. I've been waving white flags and everything else. I thought they would beat Detroit, but I was concerned, and obviously there was cause for concern down 13-0, the big plays early. But John, you have a knack for this. I don't want to put the pressure on you, but I don't think this will be an easy game if we assume that this is an improved team coming off a bye, the Raiders of John Gruden, whereas the Packers are in a bit of a short week. However,
one of the Detroit Lions told me in the locker room on Monday night that the pass rush for Green Bay is much more effective at home. And I think that it's not like it's Seattle where you have a dramatic noise issue, but you can't change blocking schemes as easily in noise on the road. Aaron Rodgers, for example, on the road can't do as many things at the line of scrimmage, I've noticed over the years, as he can at home. At home, the 2 Smiths, I think, are going to really rush and create havoc for Carr. And I think the Packers will generate more turnovers. So I think turnovers will be a very physical game, tough game. I think the Packers win about 30-20.
Okay. Derek Carr completing 73% of his passes. He's a good quarterback. He certainly is not an elite quarterback. Do you think Gruden will get the job done over there in Oakland? Or will he end up back in the booth and doing his quarterback's analysis show with kids coming out of college and into the pros?
I sure hope he makes it as a coach because it was getting kind of tiring, I thought, on Monday night. But his Gruden show with quarterbacks was fantastic. I always enjoyed that.
Yeah, very insightful. He's very, very good. But the best to me was
Chucky toughness.
Yeah, all of that. And then when Frank Caliendo was Gruden, and he was Gruden,
right.
I'm sure some of you recall that was absolutely fantastic. Smoke and mirrors on offense, the creativity of Matt LaFleur as we take this one home, John, it would seem to me they have got to get another skill position player or two, and yet it's a lot easier said than done.
Well, the Raiders have made 2 trades for wide receivers in the last couple weeks, and one of the one is Trevor Davis from Cal.
Yes.
Cal. He'll be
the former Packer,
possibly the starter in the against the Packers. And it's interesting that was a guy you would think that the Packers would have needed. They traded him away for a draft pick. Gutekunst got a 4th-round pick for Ha Clinton Dix, which was kind of stealing, just like stealing back then. And you might see some trades where the Packers actually trade some players because if you sign free agents, you don't get compensatory picks because they say, oh, who did you lose, but who did you sign? And it balances out. He signed 4 good players, Turner, the Smith brothers, and Amos last year as free agents. So he traded Ha knowing that he wasn't going to get any comp for that in the balance. So it'd be interesting to see. There could be some players being traded by Green Bay. I can't tell you what position that would be. Maybe defensive back. They're deep, and they just picked up a linebacker, Williams from Baltimore, and they're trying to integrate him. Goodson, it took probably 3 weeks before he really knew what was going on in the Pipines system. So it takes a while. Offensively, I would think they're going to look for a tight end or a wide receiver.
Got to, yeah.
Have to.
I'd like to see what happens going forward with Alan Lazard out of Iowa State. You know, maybe he was a free agent for a reason, but man, did he come up big against the Lions with that marvelous catch. Great to see you again, buddy. A quick turnaround is on Monday night. You were up there in Titletown. Anything else you want to leave us with?
Just that my wife said, be sure and tell Pip that he's the star of the show, not you, and I fully agree. So thanks, Pip, for all you do.
Oh, buddy, you're the best. I think we know when it comes to the nuts and bolts, you are the man, which is why it's so enjoyable. He's one of the best in every way, John Dodds. So for my friend and colleague, I'm Tom Pippins. Catch us on the Tom Pippins Show or right here, WSS Sports. They are the very best. See you next time.